Very beautifully outlined, a perfect presentation, and you have made my work so simple. What I'm going to do is it's going to be more like a rapid revision of sorts to know who's been paying attention or not. So now we'll come to know. So what I'm going to deal with, I'm just going to wrap around with the psychiatric aspects of pornography, most of which is covered, but I will just wrap around it so that we have a quick understanding of what is essential for a take-home message. So yes, pornography is as old as the hills, right? And in fact, the only thing that is older than pornography is the trade of prostitution. So what we realize is both of them come from what sex has the impact on mind and body. Uh, Sex sells, haven't we heard that before, right? And whether it's a doormat or whether it's anything to do dumb or not so good, or even a smartphone, somehow or the other, people have believed that they need another blonde bombshell, or they need sexual connotations to put things forward or to market something. And that's the impact that sex has. It is a biological need, but then how further can somebody go for it is what defines man from animal. So as rightly put across, there are lots of studies, surveys, statistics, all of this that tells us the truth about what we have just seen. There are innumerable studies, and what most of them touch upon is that pornography consumption is on the increase. And given the understanding that people have moved from desktop to mobile, yes, the varieties of pornography consumption have also increased. Very essentially, more commonly seen statistics-wise in males than females. And now it is the young adults that are being through very often. So the catchment, they are the catchment industry for the porn industry, and young adults are the target, and therefore an alarming rate of young adults being put into the pornography net. It's also said through the studies that there is a decrease of pornography use with age. Whether all of this is true is not too sure. I think from time immemorial, when our housey numbers have been called, we've all heard men turn naughty at 4040. So what beyond? We don't really know. But yes, statistics have said with age, there is a decrease in the use of pornography. And don't be surprised, the rates at which women are also getting into the pornography circle, this is also alarming. It has increased over time. And therefore, this also has to match with the increasing amount of substance use or substance addiction, the alcohol and other things that are also seen now on a rising rate among women. So gender equality is getting close on its heels. It is now also among the women's segment that we have seen rising rates of pornography as well as addiction. And this pornography and the problems attached to it have been given various names. A rose is a rose by any other name, and therefore there are so many other names that are there that are used in literature, in studies, and in conversations. The POPU, problematic online pornography use, properly indicating that all pornography need not be problematic. The CSBD, which is compulsive sexual behavioral disorder, wherein the use is compulsive and it is a behavioral disorder. Hypersexual disorders, wherein sexuality is on an increased neurochemical overlay for the brain and for the body. Sex addiction, just as you would have addiction to anything else, and impulse control disorders, people who start cannot finish, and therefore it is difficult to get control over their impulses. The AAA, as was beautifully put by Sister as well, why is pornography on the rise, especially now? And the simple things are the accessibility. Almost everybody has at least one smartphone at home or at the office. And whether it's a chat break in the office, those without a smartphone have also been able to log into someone else's, and 3 people could probably share a video over lunch. So accessibility, affordability, You are lured in with various sales and discounts, etc. So things become affordable. If the access is affordable, now many more people can use this. And anonymity. I can get in there, I can see stuff, and I can do so much more without anybody coming to know. So there's no character assassination of my reputation. Everything seems picture perfect, and I've been there and done that. So these are the AAA influences for pornography. What it also brings in is that extra A, the adverse effects. And these adverse effects are so many that have just been outlined. But what we also need to understand is what we see as pornography could also be the tip of the iceberg. And probably here I play the devil's advocate. We cannot just look at pornography in isolation, and that is what the psychiatrist will outline. What we see, the tip of the iceberg, does that analogy definitely correlates here. What we see of the iceberg is just 1/10. The 9 parts of it remain unseen. And it was this very thing that got the huge and mighty Titanic a sinking. And this is what we could do if we failed to see beyond pornography. So there's often more that meets the eye. And what could be that? Yes, the whole plethora of things. And therefore, we need to understand there is a blurring here between cause and consequence. These same things can get on to people getting hooked onto pornography, and the same things can happen as a consequence of the pornography. Almost a chicken and egg phenomenon, and therefore probing in detail into the history becomes the prerogative of the counselor or the psychiatrist, seeing to the person in question. Anxiety, depression, people who are nervous would probably feel like a lion when they are alone and in the midst of pornography. People who are depressed cannot find anything else attractive. This is what lures them. A pathological state as bipolar mania, where a person goes into various heights of ecstasy, is florid with their relationships and their behaviors, could at that point of time get into severe pornography rather than any other time when they do not have the bipolar mania. It could be OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and this could be one of the aspects that come to light. There are many other obsessions that the person could have that need to be noted. An extension of addiction disorders. So here is a person who's addicted to alcohol, who's addicted to everything else, and pornography is one among those addictions because it works, as Sister beautifully said, on the same reward circuitry. It works on the neurochemical basis, and such people are risk-taking people. They like novelty. They want to try what you've said not to try, and this becomes an extension of all of that. Personality disorders. And we could probably have people who have various aspects of wanting to be the center of attention all the time. And because of this, they are into flirtatious relationships, and sexual needs are much more like the nymphomaniac, where sex is a very important aspect of their thought, behavior, and emotions, and that leads to pornography. Sexual perversions. If a person has an alternative sexuality and is not able to confront others or live the life he chooses or wants, this is his escape mechanism. So he's into porn to meet his other unmet needs. And when there are gender identity disorders or distortions. So you could have any of these problems related to the mind and body, and that could be either cause or effect in relation to all that we have outlined here. And therefore, it is important, my dear people, to understand that we have to decode what we see. The thoughts, the behaviors, the emotions, what we see, we need to decode and get a great reading of what's hiding behind that. It's a vicious circle most often. And therefore, very often by the time a psychiatrist would interview someone, we realize that they are into a web. There is a vicious circle of shame, guilt, and secrecy. And one thing could lead to the other and then further accentuate all of this. And this could lead to much more pornographic use, therefore making it difficult to come out of this completely. Without help, not possible. And therefore, help has to be offered. Awareness is the first step to health that is required. And therefore, we need a reality check. We need to understand things that are important. How much is normal? Is this a normal explorative phase? Sometimes what we are usually seeing at 12, 13, or 15 years is probably seen at a later stage at 18, 20, or 24, because there is a delayed maturity of sorts in the person in question. So when does normal become pathological is important, again, with a good history taking. And when does pathological become pervasive? It continues again and again in spite of other actions to try to retard this problem, right? So it is not only seen when they have a problem, it is also seen when they don't have associated problems, or what we call as comorbidities. So a reality check in place becomes important. The ABC model is what is based on the three aspects that anyways comes through with pornography. One, there is affective dysregulation. And what it simply means is affective is to do with our emotions, more in place with our EQ. So that then gets out of order. It is not regulated well. Our emotions go for a toss. Behavioral addiction, it is part of it. Now you get addicted, your behavior tends to land into one other addiction to another. It shows the typical aspects of having an environment which may also lead you to this. It can also have a stimulus from within yourself and your mind, or from the environment. Negative role models also could lead to behavioral addiction. And finally, the C is the cognitive discontrol, wherein your ability, as was outlined, to have sharp judgments or understand good from bad, that is also impaired. So your IQ and EQ go both for a toss, including your behavior. And this is the ABC model that is kept in sync with other addictions also. Consequences, no rocket science required. You've definitely guessed it. Yes, it affects relationships. It affects your occupation professionally also. When you become addicted to pornography, you are putting less time into what you should do, and the quality of time that you do is not really good enough. So quality and quantity, both of that is impaired. Your finances could also be affected, and legal aspects can also come through. Most importantly, it is the relationships that are affected. For the married couples, the most important cringe point is the relationship, and that worsens. If nothing is done at stage one, that worsens further and can lead to the breakdown and the ruin of the family, as already outlined by Sister. And therefore, balance is what we must put across. It's not important to say no, not at all. And sometimes we are very aggressive in the way we deal with these aspects. What we need is balance. Balance for the mind, our thoughts, balance for the body, the emotions, and the behavior. If there is balance, then we can go forward without pathological problems of pornography. How we instill that balance comes from the role modeling with mothers and fathers, or with the counselor or the psychiatrist who would help the person with pornography. But essentially, balance. It is difficult to go to no sexual titillation at all. It has to be balanced, which is important. There are lots of rating scales that are used to find out how much of a problem is there. And a lot of them, the SAST, the HDSI, the hypersexual disorder screening, and the internet sex screening test, these are most popular used. And the pornography craving questionnaire, again, because it is an addiction, and any addiction would have craving, withdrawal, and tolerance in place, just like alcohol or anything else. So rating scales can be used, but very often we don't really waste too much time with rating scales. After a good history, you could outline mild, moderate, or severe. And if you continue with understanding that aspect, you would realize that the mild aspect would do with counseling and help, but the moderate and severe would definitely require medication as well to help them. So the treatment approaches, we have understood the problem, the ramifications have been outlined. What do we do to help? Most of the times, what we have as treatment approaches is psychotherapy or talk therapy. That is, in plain words, the counseling that happens, helping them understand. And when it comes to counseling, there are various aspects that can be also put across. The psychosocial therapy, where people use this more importantly because they cannot do well among social contacts around them. So I'm shy, I'm lazy, I cannot face people, I cannot say, you have a boy who does not manage well in front of other girls. But like I said, in the closed room, behind a latch door, there is his pornography and he manages to sustain himself. So understanding what is important, which aspect of psychotherapy that needs to go, that is the psychosocial aspect that can help here. The cognitive behavioral therapy, and this is most commonly used. What myths do people have? If I do this, I'm a hero. If I do this, I'm very masculine and macho. Such type of myths could be broken down, and behavior associated with thought is changed by having a control on your behaviors. So you will reduce the time, you time it on maybe 10 minutes lesser, half an hour lesser, your access to such things are reduced, you go on a detox if required, and all of this is to do with mind and behavior. The psychodynamic therapy is to do with psychodynamics. What is on in childhood, something that happened related now, you find the dynamics, you find the correlations, and you work on that. And finally, the pharmacological aspects, where medications are outlined as the patient is. So we outline it as per the patient to try and understand things better. What is most commonly really done well is the ACT and the mindful based cognitive behavioral therapy. So you have the ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy, where we help to accept the person to accept for themselves what they are and commit to themselves how they can come out of this problem. And mindful based cognitive behavioral therapy is using from the premise of mindfulness, wherein you put your mind in huge proportion to help yourself. You understand that if the mind has power to let you into pornography, it can also give you the same power to come out of pornography. And if you understand the outlines of this, the core concepts of these therapy are to embrace your thoughts and feelings. This is one weakness of mine. I see my fears, I see my weaknesses face front, and I try to take help. I do not try to dissociate myself from the bad part of me. The yin and the yang both are within me, and let me accept it. After having that self-acceptance, I move towards making my mind better towards my strengths and my weaknesses, psychological flexibility, as is what is called, commitment to problem solving. I know and I accept I have a problem. Now let's focus on solving that problem. My life affirmations, maybe 20% in my life is in a great state. Now that is what can lead me to get from 20 to the remaining 80. I have a great supportive family. I have a good relationship. I have someone who can hear me and I can talk to. Maybe this is the only thing going right for me at this point of time. And that's just 20% in my life, but I can build from there and I can go further. Life enrichment, taking it one step at a time, trying to probably get another hobby, you learn another language, you learn to dance, you learn to sing, you learn something that can give you a little better self-esteem than you already have. Because a broken self-esteem, either pornography came from that space or it has led to that space. So working on the self-esteem to make someone feel very much more complete is also part of the life enrichment that is required. And guilt reduction, because as long as the guilt keeps coming, it makes you lesser than what you are, and your energies and abilities to help yourself are therefore marred. So you help to reduce the guilt that's coming in so that you can make better choices to improve your life. Finally, just a run through of two small cases that I have as I round up and end my presentation. I like these words, and it says, running away from any problem only increases the distance from the solution. The easiest way to escape from the problem is to solve it. And I put for you the case of a 6th standard girl, Marina, name changed of course. And this was the girl who was brought by her parents for bad behavior. And the parents were saying, see this girl, 6th standard, no one in our family has ever talked about sex at this age. And we don't know how this girl has got books about sex that she is seeing. And she has seen some videos that I found on my mobile. And we are fed up with this child. We don't know what to do. And a battered and bruised Marina came in and spoke in conversation. When they speak alone to a therapist, then they open up and they share, as Sister rightly mentioned. And that is when she said that it happened about 6 months before. She had increasing images of sexual perversions coming into her mind. She spoke to it to her mother and her father, and they said, you have to get it out of your head. You got a dirty head. You are sitting with Sandra and you are sitting with somebody else, and that's why your head is getting worse. You stop talking to them. You say 1 Our Father and 3 Hail Marys. You do this and do that. And 6 months, this girl suffered. She cried to bed every night, and she could not get over these thoughts of sexuality that were hitting her head. Finally, as in most cases, the psychiatrist is the last stage that people come through. And then we realized what was presenting there was OCD. It was obsessive compulsive disorder. Dear friends, many times it is the priests and the nuns who help us with people from the confession box. A priest and a nun who has been repeatedly hearing people talk about what's coming in their mind repeatedly and without ability to control their thoughts. That's when they realize that, yes, this is beyond something. We understand that this is OCD and it needs much more intervention. I am happy that we have an opportunity to even sensitize people at the college. Thanks to Father Stephen, Father Gilbert, and all of them, we have made mental health as part of the curriculum as people finish their studies at the theology colleges before they get into complete spirituality. So here, this is to be understood that this was OCD that presented as bad behavior. With help, with counseling, with medication, she was able to come out. And we had to resort to medication because the case had gone from mild to moderate to severe, right? And finally, my last case, again, the words that I like, we are not only what happens to us, we are the ones experiencing what happens to us. When we have this ability to separate both what happens to me and me to who it is happening, then I can help myself better because I understand what's good and bad. I am not all bad because something bad is happening to me. Take the case of Clyde at 34 that was brought by his wife for spending long hours on the internet with pornography. And she said, it is too much, doctor. I think I'm giving it up. We have a son who's 12 years old, and this marriage is not working. He seems to be addicted to his internet. And again, when we probe deeper, what we realize is Clyde, at the age of around 8 or 9, had sexual abuse. It was something because he was diffident, he was shy. His sexual growth and maturity did not prime as per his regular chronological age. Sometimes there is a delay between the age of the mind and the age of the body, and that gap can lead to further problems. Clyde was one amongst those who had the gap between their chronological age and the age of the mind. And therefore, as things went ahead, he was bullied in school and in college, never had confidence for himself. And every time he would be stressed out, he went back to going into pornography. Why? Because pornography helped him to be a little more accepted among his circles of boys around, because they would make fun. Hey, Clyde, you're not a man enough, man. And if you do this, then Clyde was man enough. So he started with that company. Exploring and curiosity, which is normal at a certain age, went beyond. These are statistics. As the age of exploration happens, you all get out of it, you move, you mature, and you're able to take care of your sexual energies, because sex is energy as well, and that energy can be channelized, and that can be healthily used in various ways, including legitimate sex that is required probably of couples in a family. Clyde would then also not feel that he's working well with his wife because his wife is more educated than him. His wife was earning much more money. This was an arranged marriage of sorts just to make both families fit the block. And therefore, he always felt that he lacked himself in some way. And again, pornography helped him to fill his self-esteem. We got the wrong to right. We helped them. We helped the family couple therapy that works. And gradually over time, things became better. Clyde is good. It also doesn't mean that every time there is pornography, we can have an excuse or a lame excuse for that. No. But what I'm trying to say is we need to look further, we need to probe further, and that pornography, nothing will be able to get it out of the system unless we realize if there are anything attached, if the roots of something else is deeply into the mind and body, we need to get that out, and pornography can definitely disappear like mist before the rising sun. That was what I had to put across. I thank you very much for the presentation opportunity. I thank people at the Archdiocese. That's my WhatsApp number. In case anyone needs to get in touch on WhatsApp, we are there to help because we are in an age of telepsychiatry. When people have problems, they are a little stunned as to what we could do. I work with the Salesians at Profulta, and right now Profulta has stopped for some time, but online we are helping out people and we are reaching out. wellsprings2006@gmail.com and Insta handle fabsmindshop227. In case anything of the mind appeals to you, we are there to be for you. Thank you once again for this presentation opportunity that we have. Back to you all, and we can go forth.